Hi, this is Arango, and today I'm going to show you how to model a mech inside of Blender 2.76. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with left click. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe or other 3D programs. Also, while you're in here, click on add-ons. Make sure you have a check mark right here next to 3D view, 3D navigation. Scroll down some. Make sure you have a check mark next to mesh F2, mesh inset polygons, mesh loop tools, as well as mesh relax. And then if you scroll all the way down, I also would recommend that you put a check mark next to user interface pi menus official. Okay, when you start off in Blender, you start off in object mode. Object mode is where you move objects around. Edit mode is where you actually manipulate and, for the most part, do your modeling of objects. The way that we're going to manipulate our view mainly is by holding the middle mouse button, which allows us to rotate the view. We're also going to click right here. This is a navigation tab. And then by clicking these buttons, we'll be able to easily adjust our view. Okay, to go to edit mode, we're going to click here and then just select edit mode. Inside of edit mode, we can manipulate our objects by vertices, edges, as well as faces, of which you can see. You can select vertices here, edges here, as well as faces here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select front. If you look right here, you can see which view you're in. So we're in front perspective view. Perspective, think of perspective as kind of like you were actually looking at something. A lot of times it tends to be easier to model things being in what's called orthographic view. Now we can switch between perspective and orthographic view right here. Orthographic view kind of sets up your screen like you're looking at a blueprint. And the way to think of it is kind of like it tends to make 3D objects look like 2D, which is very useful when you're modeling in 3D often. So I'm going to click right here to change this from the front perspective view that it's on right now to orthographic perspective. So now you can see it says front ortho there. And you look here, you can see there's kind of like a grid background right here. And now we're in front orthographic mode, and that's where we want to be. Okay, well, my basic plan is we're going to go through, get our basic model blocked out, then we'll come back and we will add details later on. Okay, so we're in front orthographic view. So what we're going to do now is press S to scale on the Z-axis. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look at what we have here. I'm going to press S to scale on the X-axis. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y-axis. See that green line right there? That's showing you a preview of how our model is going to go. So I'm just pulling here, and it's just that by pressing S to scale on the Y-axis just allows us to make the this block longer, in this way. Okay, I'm holding the middle mouse button. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold shift, then press D, then left click to lock in. What I did right there was I just made a duplicate of that block right there, which you can see right here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side some. Now I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side some more. What I'm going to do now is with face select on, I selected face select just by clicking right here. I'm going to click here. You can see that this particular face is lit up there. So I'm going to take this manipulator and push this down. This is forming basically the top of our leg. Let me shrink that, make that not quite as long. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hover my mouse here, press L. Then I'm going to press Shift D, which duplicates this piece right here, and I'm going to push this straight down just like that. Okay, so basically what we have here is this is going to be the waist. This is going to be like the upper leg portion of the mech, the lower leg portion of the mech. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back some. I'm going to press Shift then D and duplicate this block right here. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis. and just push this out. So we'll use this to eventually form the foot. One of the nice things when you're working with mechanical characters or meshes is that you tend to use duplication a lot, and it actually is nice because once you do work on something, you can just keep duplicating to get more detail. So what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. Okay, wherever your 3D cursor is at in Blender is where objects tend to come in to when they come into Blender. So this is our 3D cursor right here. The circle is our 3D cursor. The orange dot is actually our origin point, which just happens to be in the same place currently as our 3D cursor. The reason why I'm saying that is we're about to bring a cube in. So we're going to press Shift A. This brings up our Mesh Add To menu. Then we're going to go right here and select Cube to bring this cube in. We're going to pull this cube up just by using the manipulator here. Okay, what we're going to do with this cube now is we're going to press W. This brings up our Specials menu. We're then going to go to where you see it says Subdivide Smooth right here. So we're going to click that once. We're going to go over here to where it says Number of Cuts. Then we're going to take this up to 2 cuts. Okay, what we're going to do now is make sure we're on Face Select. We're still on Face Select. We're going to select this face right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to press and hold Alt, then press O. What this did was this turned on something called a proportional editing tool. The proportional editing tool allows you to manipulate more than one vertice, edge, or face at a time. If you click here, you can see your options for proportional editing. The one version of proportional editing, which is here, allows you to manipulate vertices, edges, as well as faces wherever your area of influence for your proportional editing tool falls at. We selected Alt-O because O turned on proportional editing. That's one of the shortcuts for it besides, just going here to this menu. We selected Connected Proportional Editing, which is here. Now, Connected Proportional Editing, it allows you to manipulate edges, vertices, and faces to objects that are directly connected to what you have selected. And hopefully that will make more sense to you as we move along. Okay, I mentioned the area of influence for the proportional editing tool. I'm going to press G. G is a shortcut that allows us to move vertices, edges, and faces around. When I press G, I activated movement for moving that face. Now you see that circle there? That circle is what I'm talking about when I say the area of influence. Now when I roll my mouse, you can see the area of influence, which is that circle, gets bigger. When I roll it the other way, it gets smaller. So with it being bigger, or around this size, we're going to press Y. When I press Y, you see that green line coming out? That green line is showing us how that we're going to move. So I press G to move, and then Y, and Y is constraining us. So basically this face can only move forward and back. So we're going to pull forward, and as we pull forward, we're going to roll our mouse wheel. And basically what we're doing is kind of making a cockpit shape. So I left click to get out of that. Now I'm just taking a look, and it has basically the general shape that I want. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to press L. When you have a piece of an object, because technically we're inside of what's called an object in Blender, when you go into edit mode, you're in an object in Blender. However, in this object, there's pretty much what most people would call separate objects. So here's an object, another object, another object, another object, another object. When you hover your mouse over an object, quote unquote, in Blender, then press L, you will select that entire object. Okay, what we want to do now is we want to scale this up. However, we don't want to scale this up with the connected proportional editing tool turned on, so we'll click here, then select disable. We'll then press S to scale. We'll scale it up to about that big. And I'll just left click to lock in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. Pull this up some like that. Okay. Okay, so basically what we have here is we have our cockpit. We have our kind of like waist point where, our cockpit will rotate from. We have our upper leg, our lower leg, which is eventually going to be our robot foot. What we'll do now is with face select on is we'll select right here. We'll press Shift D, left click to lock in. When I press Shift D, I duplicated that face. Because I did that, I can pull this face out right here. I'm now going to press S to scale to make this get a little bit bigger. Now left click to lock in from scaling. I'm then going to press E to extrude. You see that line right there, which is showing us how just by pressing E to extrude, this is going to work. I can press X to make sure that I'm absolutely going to extrude sideways, which is the X-axis. So that's why it turned red. I pressed X. So now I'm just going to extrude out like this. Then I want to push it a little bit. Left click to lock this in. I'm now going to hover here, press L, press S to scale this up a little bit bigger. I'm going to press S to scale in the X-axis. I'm just going to make this a little bit thinner. And basically what this is going to be kind of like a part that our attachment, our weapon attachments come out of. So actually, let me press S to scale on the Y-axis. Then S to scale on the Z-axis. Push this down a little bit because our cockpit area is going to be like right there. I should say our open portion will be right here, or the seat, if you can imagine, will probably be right here. And I'm not sure if I want to make this an open cockpit or not, but the pilot will be pretty much looking out here, or I might have it so the pilot just looking through cameras. I'm not sure yet, but so anyway, we have the cockpit area, the waist area, we have the area that our arms, if you will say, or weapons will be eventually come out here. We have our upper leg, our lower leg, as well as our robot foot there. So with this selected, what we're going to do is press Shift D to duplicate this. Left click to lock in. We'll pull this out to the side like that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press S to scale to make this bigger. Just hold the middle mouse button, take a look. We'll press S to scale on the Y-axis to make it longer. And this will pretty much be like our, weapon systems kind of deal. I'm going to press S to scale to make this a little bit bigger. Just hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. I'm going to hold Shift to the middle mouse button to pan up some. Okay, so we have most of our basics. We're going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I am going to hover my mouse here, press L, hover the mouse here, then press L as well. I'm going to pull this back some, about like that. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. I'm then going to press R to rotate on the X-axis. And what you'll find in Blender is typically when you rotate things, you want to rotate on an axis because it gives you just control. So I actually don't want these being back quite that far, so I'm going to press I think I'm going to press A to make this a little bit bigger, actually. Push that down slightly. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover my mouse here, press L, then hover here as well, press L. I think I'm going to press S to scale to make these a little bit bigger. Just push this forward just like that. And I'm going to press S to scale on the X-axis to make this a little bit thinner. I'll push it forward a little bit more. Just hold the middle mouse button, taking a look. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. I'm going to press S to scale to make this a little bit bigger as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to select front. We're in front orthographic, which is what we want to be. We're going to press A to deselect. We're going to hover our mouse here. We're going to use a very useful technique in Blender called a loop cut. So with our mouse hovered here, we're going to press and hold Control, then press R. See that purple line right there? That's showing us where our loop cut's going to go, which is good because that's what we want. So we're going to left click once, then left click a second time to lock that in. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here. I'm going to press Control. Then while holding Control, press R to put a loop cut here. Oops. I'll right click to jump back. Couldn't see it at first, so the loop cut's there. So I'll left click again the second time. And what you want is you want to have See that orange dot? Remember I told you that's not the 3D cursor. That's the origin point. We're about to mirror this to the other side. So what you want to do is make sure that this origin point is directly in the center of the one half of your geometry. So I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press Z to go to wireframe. Then I'm going to go to face select. I'm now going to hover my mouse up here. I'm going to press B, which is box select. Box select allows us to draw a box and select whatever's in that box. So I'm going to left click and drag, pull this down slightly past halfway. I'm on face select currently, so I grab all of this half right here. So now I'm going to press X. This brings up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mirror, what's called a mirror modifier on here, and it's going to take this actual geometry and basically make virtual geometry on this side. It's very useful. I'm going to hover my mouse here and roll my mouse wheel until I can get to this wrench. This is where the mirror modifier is located at. I'm going to click here, and then click here. Now here's our mirror modifier. The mirror modifier is very useful because it basically allows you to do half of the amount of work that you would normally do. I'm going to click this, and then the mirror modifier is set up upon this origin point. That's why this is pretty much, perfectly matched up to right here. When I first started using Blender, I didn't understand about this origin point, and I would do things to move the origin point, and that would cause issues. But to have the mirror modifier work right or correctly, you need to have it right in the center. So here's our virtual geometry from our mirror modifier. These are the options for our mirror modifier here. So we're going to put a check mark here for clipping. This keeps the virtual part of our geometry from pulling apart from our actual geometry. Then I'm going to click this button right here, and that pretty much makes the virtual geometry respond extremely similarly to our actual geometry right here. By the way, the reason why I went into wireframe mode was because when you're in solid mode, if I did a box select, basically what I would select was the geometry that you could see. Because I went to wireframe mode, you pretty much still can see what you can see, but because in wireframe mode, you can see the front all the way through the model, all the way to the back. So by selecting wireframe mode, you can select the front of a piece of a model as well as the back. So that's why I went into wireframe mode. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to press Z, then I'm going to go to solid mode. So then I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look, and we have, our basic mech structure set up. Okay, so we're going to start adding detail now. So what we're going to do is we're going to press A to select everything. Then we're going to press A again just to make sure that nothing is selected. We're going to hover our mouse right here. Then we're going to press L. With this selected, now we're going to press and hold Shift, and then we're going to press H. Now this is useful in that basically the reason why this other geometry disappeared is because it is presently hidden. So it's still there, but it's hidden. So it just allows us to focus on what we're doing right here. Also, since I want to just focus right now on this, these are our modifier options right now. If I select this eye right here, we will not see this modifier, which is the mirror modifier, working. So I'm going to temporarily unselect that eye so we can just put our attention and focus right on this piece of geometry right here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan up. I'm now going to press S to scale on the Z axis like that. I'm then going to select this face right here. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis like this. I'm going to go to Edge Select. This manipulator gets in your way. You can press and hold Control, then press Space, then select the manipulator, and it will temporarily move out of your way. I'm going to select this top edge here. I'm going to press and hold Control, then press Space again, select the manipulator, bring it back. Push this down some just like that using the manipulator. Okay, what we're going to do now is make sure we're on the face select. We're going to select this face right here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to push this forward some just like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and look towards the back. With face select on, I'm going to select here. When I selected here, it being Blender made this first face there be deselected. Then I'm going to press Shift and D. left click to lock in, I just duplicated this face. So I'm going to pull that face back some. Then I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, pull that back some just like that. Now I am going to, you can hover and press L. You can also press Control L. Now, a lot of times it's easier to press L. However, sometimes if there's something kind of hard to see, you can grab a little piece of it. Then you can press Control, and while holding Control, press L, and that will also select an object. So anyway, with this object selected, I'm going to press S to scale that. Then I'm going to take the manipulator and push this forward like that. Okay, with this piece of geometry selected, we're going to press and hold Shift, then press D, left click to lock in. We just duplicated this geometry. We're going to pull back that duplicated geometry. We're going to press S to scale. I'm going to left click to lock it in. I'm going to press S to scale again, make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to pull this back some like that. Right now, we're looking at this geometry. We have all this space on our screen. So what we're going to do is press Shift, and while holding Shift, press B. We're going to draw a box around this geometry, and all that does, when you press Shift B, it allows you to zoom in to where the where you drew the box, which is very cool. I learned that from Darren Lau a little while ago, and really like that zoom in technique. Anyway, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to select right here, this face right here. You can see we're still on face select. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to take the manipulator and pull back some like this. Then I'm going to press S to scale this up some like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. Then I'm going to take the manipulator and push this forward like that. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back some. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis like that. Left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis a little bit more like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to select right here. I'm going to pull straight back, about like that. I'm going to go to Edge Select by selecting right here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I'm going to select this edge right here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate. I'm going to hold Shift. Because I'm holding Shift, it will allow me to select this edge without losing the select for that edge. Okay, with those two edges selected, I'm going to press and hold Control. While holding Control, I'm going to press B. This gives us a bevel, I guess you would say command. And I'm going to pull, and you can see what's going on there is the sides are, beveling up. So I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is press Control, then L. Then I'm going to press S to scale this down some. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate that piece of geometry right there. I'm going to pull that back to about here. I'm then going to press R to rotate on the Z axis, 180. Then left click to lock it in. Pull that back to about here. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm then going to press L. I'm then going to hover here. Press L. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to push this to the side. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis. Remember, the axes keep us from losing control of our own geometry. So I'm just taking the manipulator, push this into place. I'm going to press S to scale to make this bigger. Okay, now with these two pieces selected, I'm going to press and hold Shift, then press D, left click to lock in. I'm just going to take the manipulator, pull this to about here. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis like that. I'll take the manipulator and work to line this up. I'll hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view some more. I'll press R to rotate on the Z axis. Just taking the manipulator to get this where I want it to. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to go to face select. I'm then going to select right here. I'm then going to press S to scale on the X axis like this. Left click to lock in, then press S to scale on the X axis again like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is roll the mouse wheel to zoom in with face select done. I'm going to select here. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift, then I'm going to select here. So I have this face selected as well as this face selected right here. I'm going to press W to bring up our specials menu. I'm going to go to loop tools, then I'm going to select bridge. And that just is a nice way of connecting these two pieces together. You'll see that loop tools option as long as you selected loop tools and add-ons that I showed you towards the beginning of this video. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to hover my mouse here, then press L, hover here, then press L. I'm going to zoom back by rolling the mouse wheel back. I'm going to press Shift, then press D, left click to lock in. Take the manipulator and push this back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view so we can get a better view to rotate this. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis. That, left click to lock in. Push this into place. Press R to rotate on the Z axis a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to select here, push this in a little bit. I'm going to hover here, then press L. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm actually going to select top view right here. I'm going to hover here, press L, then hover here, then press L. Then I'm going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. Then I'm just taking the manipulator to move this. One of the nice things about being in an orthographic mode, for instance, in top orthographic mode, we can just press R. We really don't have to worry about pressing R to rotate on the Z axis like we normally would. I'm just pushing this into place here, and then I'm going to press S to scale this down some like this. And I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, left click to lock in. I'm going to pull this to the side some like this. I'm now going to hold the middle mouse button and rotate the view. I'm going to select this face right here. I'm then going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0, then left click to lock in. I'm then going to select this face as well, then press S to scale on the Y axis 0, and then lock that in. And that's just a way of flattening an area out since I wanted those two pieces flattened. Now what I'm going to do is press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to select that face. I'm going to hold Shift, then select this face. Then I'm going to click here. This is our pivot point. Our medium pivot point is our default pivot point. I'm going to switch to individual origins. The reason why I switched to individual origins was so that I could extrude these faces and then scale them down to be basically the same size at the same time. So I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I created new geometry by extruding. It doesn't look like I did anything, but I just created another face on top of the face that you see right there. It's different from pressing Shift D in that face is still connected to the geometry that was made on top of. Anyway, I'm going to press S to scale that geometry down, which is the new geometry that I have selected. Then I'm going to left click to lock it in, and then I'm going to pull up on the manipulator like that. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to click back to our pivot point and change our pivot point from the individual origins pivot point back to Blender's median point, which is Blender's default pivot point. So now I'm going to hover here, press L, then hover here, and press L as well. I'm going to hover here, press L, hover here, press L. Now I'm going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. I created new pieces of geometry when I pressed Shift D. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press S to scale on the x-axis -1. Then left click to lock in. What that did was that took the geometry and basically made it flip to the other side. It has this strange shading on it, the new geometry, because typically when you use that technique I just used, which was S to scale on the x-axis -1. Typically what it does is it makes the normals not be correct. What normals is basically the direction that faces are facing. So these normals are not currently correct, so we can fix that by pressing Control, then holding Control, and while holding Control, pressing the N key. Now what that just did was that made Blender recalculate the normals for the selected geometry. So it recalculated the normals, and basically Blender set the normals so that they're right now. That's why the shading doesn't look strange anymore. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I'm actually going to go back to our pivot point and change it from Blender's default pivot point, which is median point, to individual origins. Similar to how I did before, I'm going to select here, hold shift. While holding shift, I'm selecting here. Now I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I just created new geometry that's attached to the old geometry. Then I'm going to press S to scale this down some. I'm then going to left click to lock in. Then I'm going to take the manipulator and pull up some like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect those faces right there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm then going to press C to activate paint select. That circle you see is the area of influence for my paint select. Paint select basically allows you to paint selections. If I roll the mouse wheel one way, the selection will get bigger. If I roll it the other way, the selection will get smaller. If you by some chance don't have a mouse wheel, if you have a number keypad, if you press plus on the number keypad, your area of influence will get bigger. If you press minus on your number keypad, your paint select will get smaller. Anyway, I'm going to select and paint just that area, that little area in between, as well as this area here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm now going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I created new geometry that is still attached to the old geometry. Then I'm going to press S to scale like this. I'm going to left click to lock in. With this geometry still selected, I'm going to take the manipulator and pull up like this. Now with that geometry still selected, I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I created new geometry again. I'm going to press S to scale like that to scale that geometry in. Okay, now I'm going to press E to extrude again. I'm going to left click to lock in. Then I'm going to take the manipulator and just push straight down like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to make sure I didn't push to the other side, and that looks good so far. Okay, what we want to do now is change our pivot point from the individual origins that we're currently on back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the median point. Then we want to, with this geometry selected, if by some chance you don't have it selected, just reselect it, you're going to press and hold shift, then press D, then left click to lock in. You're then going to press S to scale, like that. You can raise it up slightly, not too much. Now you just scaled it down just to get some space between like the edge of this wall and that, the geometry you currently have selected. So now you're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. When you press that E to extrude, you just created new geometry. So now you're just going to pull up like this. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to select everything. We're then going to press S to scale this down. Push it forward some. Hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. Now we're going to press and hold Alt, then press H to bring back our hidden geometry. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press Z to go to wireframe. I'm then going to hold Control, hold the right mouse button, and draw a lasso select to select this whole robot foot here. I'm going to push this forward some here. Then I'm going to press S to scale this up some. Like that. I'm going to press Z, then go to solid view. Let's scale it up some more. Push this up some like that. Push it forward a little bit. Okay, then with that foot selected, I'm going to select here. I'm going to press L. I'm hovering here, so I pressed L. I'm pressing L here. I'm going to pull this to the side some, just because I don't want this geometry from this foot. See that even though we have the mirror modifier off, see that the half right here, so I'm just trying to give some distance there. So now I'm going to click this eye, which now we can see our mirrored geometry there. So now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L, hover here, press L as well. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the X-axis like that. Okay, and that's actually further than I wanted the legs to be apart. So what I'm going to do is press Z, go to wireframe, hold Control, hold the right mouse button, grab and select right there. Then I'm going to push these closer together. A little bit of space, but there we go. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Then I press Z to go back to solid view. Hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold the middle mouse button. We're going to hover right here. We're going to press L. We're then going to press and hold Shift, then press H to hide everything but this. We're then going to hold Shift, then press B while holding Shift and draw a box to zoom in right here. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold the middle mouse button. I'm actually going to press S to scale on the Y-axis, make this a little bit longer. We're going to select right here. We're going to press and hold Shift, then press D while holding Shift. Left click to lock in. And we're going to press S to scale. We'll pull this out to the side a little bit. The reason why I can pull and it looks like it's scaling on the X-axis is because of this mirror modifier. This clipping keeps the two halves of the model together, so I can actually use that to my advantage, and that's how I am pulling to the side like that. So what I'm going to do is press E to extrude on the Z-axis. If you press Z and it disappears your axis, you can just press it again to get it back. Just take this up slightly like that. Let me press N. And I pressed N to go to display so that I could take away this grid floor. So you just uncheck there and the grid floor will go away. I'll press N to take that menu away now. Actually, don't want this being so wide, so I'll push that in some right there like that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is select here. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I press S to scale. We're scaling the new geometry we just made. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We're going to push in that geometry now. Now we're going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. We created new geometry, but by pressing Shift D, the new geometry that we made isn't connected to the old geometry. So we're going to press S to scale it down some. Then we're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and pull that geometry out some like this. And I'm actually going to hover here, press L, then I'm going to press S to scale on the Y-axis to make it more like that as it comes out. I'm actually going to grab this face right here, push this in a little bit more. Okay, what we're going to do now is select here. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We're going to press S to scale, about like that. Hold the middle mouse button, take a look. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y-axis a little bit more. Left click to lock in. Now I'm going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. Tends to be, as far as I'm concerned, when you're dealing with mechanical objects, actually good to make separate objects. That's why I'm tending to use Shift D a lot. So I'm going to pull this up slightly. I'm then going to press W, then choose subdivide. I'm then going to press W, go to loop tools, and go to circle. Okay, with that done, I'm going to press S to scale this down a little. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to take this manipulator and pull up like this. I'm now going to hover here, press L, push this down a little. Okay, now we're going to press A to deselect. We're going to temporarily turn off this clipping by or taking away this check mark right here, we're going to then select here. We're then going to press Shift D, left click to lock in. We're going to press S to scale down some, about like that. We're then going to press W to bring up our specials menu. We're then going to choose subdivide. We're then going to press W to bring up the specials menu again. Then go to loop tools and then choose circle. We're now going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, then pull out that geometry like that. We're now going to press Control L. We're going to press S to scale this geometry down some. Pull this up some, like that. Now we're going to press Shift D, left click to lock in. Push this geometry down some like that. I'm actually going to hover here, press L, and pull them all up a little bit so that's not so close to the edge. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, now we're going to turn clipping back on. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to select here. I am then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale. Then I'm just going to push this new geometry down some like that. Hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. Okay, what I'm going to do now is press A to deselect. One thing to be aware of in Blender is that if you want to change geometry without affecting other geometry, a good way to do that is to hide some geometry. So I'm going to hover my mouse here, and then I'm going to press L, hover here, then press L, then I'm going to press H to hide that geometry. Then I'm going to press A to select all of this geometry. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis like this. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to select this face right here, pull out to the side some more. Now I'm going to, because we're for the most part done with this, I'm going to hold Alt, then press H to bring back our other geometry. Then I'm going to press A to deselect everything. Okay, now I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hover my mouse here. Then I'm going to press L, L as well as L here. I'm then going to pull up some here, so we have more room for the legs there. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, turn the view slightly. I'm going to hover my mouse right here. I'm going to press and hold Control, then press R. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel one time to put 2 loop cuts in. I'm going to left click to lock in. And then I only left click once. Because I did that, those loop cuts are movable. I'm now going to press S to scale on the X axis. I'm pushing up to get those loop cuts to push out some. I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, one of the things we do, we as far as myself and you, if you're following along now and if you followed me along before, is we use a manipulator. And see how the manipulator is situated compared to this. I want this geometry to go in the direction of the leg. See how, like that way, right? See how the manipulator is going up and down, right? So if we select this area, which I want, so actually I'm going to go here to face select. I'm going to hold the mouse button. I'm going to select this face right here. I want to go this way, right? So the manipulator is up, you know, and down, you know, left and right, in and out, which is good as far as, you know, most of the time what we want. By using the manipulator, we're able to control, you know, how we model, and it's very useful, very good most of the time. So we want to keep using the manipulator to push this out. So how do we do this and make this easy for ourselves? Well, one of the things to take note of is the manipulator is pointing up and down, and you know, its general directions because it's in global mode, which you can see right here. To get this to push it that way, like diagonal, we can just click here, select normal, and now you see that the manipulator is actually, you know, going the way we want. So now we'll take the manipulator and just pull up like that, just rotating so you can see the general shape. Then we're actually going to select this face right here. We're going to do the same thing, pull this way slightly. It's going to push into this geometry a little bit. That's fine for now. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to select here. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We just created new geometry by doing that. We're going to press S to scale. A lot of times when I do this, people try to help out, which I appreciate, and they say use inset. Inset is very similar. You would press I and push in. It's very similar to extrude. Most of the time I've used Blender, I've used extrude, because before I don't believe there was inset, so that's why I tend to use extrude rather than inset, if you're wondering. Anyway, we're going to take the manipulator, which is still set for the normal orientation, push this out some right there. Okay, we're going to press A to deselect. We still have face select on. We're going to select right here. We're going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. That allowed us to make totally new geometry. So now we're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We'll pull that geometry out. Because this is actually a separate piece, we'll press L. Then we'll press S to scale it down some. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. We'll press S to scale on the X axis to make it thinner. I'll press S to scale on the X axis a little bit more, and I'm going to press S to scale it up some. Select here, good. Manipulators, take that up a little bit more there. Okay, we're going to press A to deselect. We're going to select this face right here. We're going to press Shift then D, left click to lock in. We're going to press S to scale. Pull this up some like this. Then we're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We're going to take our manipulator and pull this out to the side. Some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. Taking a look at this, I'm going to select that face there, take this manipulator and shrink this down just slightly. I'm going to hover my mouse here, press L. Oh, that's interesting. Well, this is a situation where you have different things you can go to. I'm just going to go back to global and do it the other way. I just wanted that up just a little bit. I'm then going to press A to deselect, hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to press A just to make sure that nothing is selected. So one of the ways to do that is if you press A and you see everything selected, you know that when you press A again, nothing is selected. So I'm going to hover here, I'm going to press L. Then with this selected, I'm going to press W to bring up our specials menu. I'm then going to choose subdivide smooth. I'm going to press S to scale this down a little. Okay, and for this section, I would like to just focus on this. I'm going to press Shift. While holding Shift, I'm going to press H, and that hides everything but the object that we have selected. Okay, so what I'm going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what I want to do is flatten this out right here. So I'm going to press C for paint select, roll my mouse wheel to shrink the paint select down. I'm going to left click to select all that. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis 0, and that's just a nice way of flattening things out that are, orientated as far as up and down. I'm going to flatten this out here, so I'm going to select here. I'm going to hold Shift and select here. When things are side to side, a good way to flatten them out is to press S to scale on the X axis 0, then left click to lock in. I want the other side flattened as well, so I'm going to hold them in the mouse button. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press C for paint select and just select those two right there. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Sometimes I'll select the face, then hold Shift. Sometimes I'll use paint select. For these particular selections, there was no particular reason. It seemed easier to hold Shift on the other side. It seemed easier to do C for paint select here. Anyway, I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis 0 to flatten that geometry out. Okay, now I'm going to hold them in the mouse button. I'm going to hold Shift, then select here. Still holding Shift, I'm going to select here. I did that because I want to widen this sound, so I'm holding them in the mouse button just to change the view slightly. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis to make that a little bit wider. Left click to lock in. Now what I'm going to do is press A to deselect. I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt, select right here, and I selected there while holding Alt. And because I held Alt, the entire edge loop was selected there. Now taking the manipulator to pull up some, like this. Pull the middle mouse button to take a look. Now I'm going to hover the mouse here. I'm going to press A to deselect there. I'm going to hold Control. While holding Control, I'm going to press R. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Drag this down just slightly. I'm going to left click again to totally lock in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to face select, hold Alt, select here, hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hover my mouse here, press C for paint select, select here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm then going to press S to scale this down some. I'm going to then left click to get out of paint select. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn the view. I'm going to hold my mouse here. I'm going to press shift, then B to draw a what I call a zoom box to zoom in. I'm then going to press C for paint select. Select these faces right here. I'm going to then right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Now I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis 0 to flatten that geometry out. And I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press and hold Alt, then press H to bring back our other geometry. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back to zoom back. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view to the side. I'm then going to press and hold Control, then press R to put a loop cut right here. Left click to lock in, left click again to totally lock in. I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press Control, then R again to put a loop cut here as well. I'm going to left click a second time to totally lock that in. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover my mouse here. Press and hold Control, then press R. Now left click one time, which allows me to move this loop cut. I'm going to move it back just slightly. Then I'm going to left click a second time to lock that in. Okay, with this edge still selected, what I'm going to do is press W. That brings up our specials menu. I'm then going to go to Loop Tools, then select Circle. And you can see now that edge is a circular shape right there. I am now still with edge select on. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold my mouse right here, hold Alt, then select right here. Okay, now I'm held the middle mouse button to turn. I'm holding Alt, holding Shift, selecting all of this geometry right here. Now I'm going to press W to bring up our specials menu. I'm going to go to Loop Tools, then I'm going to select Circle. So now we have kind of like a, it made this circular as well. Then we're going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Control, while holding Control, I'm going to press the R button. I'm going to left click one time, which allows me to drag the loop cut. I'm going to drag this loop cut back a little bit, left click a second time to totally lock that in. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to hold Alt, then select here. And now I'm going to press C for paint select and select here. I'm now going to right click to get out of paint select. Now I'm going to press S to scale this down some. I'm going to left click to lock this in. Then I'm going to drag this back some like that. Okay, what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Control, then press R to put a loop cut right here. I'm going to left click to drag this forward some like that. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom in some. Okay, and what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to select right here. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale this out some, like this. I'm going to hover here, press C for paint select all of this geometry right here. Right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to pull this forward some. A little bit more. Press A to deselect. I'm going to go to edge select this edge right here. I'm going to push this forward some. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect there. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to hover here. I'm then going to press C for paint select and select this geometry here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0 to flatten that geometry out. I'm going to then left click to lock that in. Okay, what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. We're going to hover here. We're then going to press L. We're then going to press Shift D to duplicate this geometry. We're then going to left click and then take our manipulator to move this geometry over. We're going to take our manipulator and just get this to the front. This face, there we go. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in some. I'm going to press S to scale this up some. Left click to lock that in. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in some more. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to select these faces here. I'm going to right click get out of paint select. I'm going to press E to extrude. Left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale like that. Left click to lock in. I'm going to press E to extrude again. Then left click to lock in. I'm going to drag this in some. I'm now going to hover here. Then I'm going to press L to select all of this geometry. I'm going to push this out some. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Okay, now I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis. Pull this back like that. I left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis again. Left click to lock that in. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis again. Left click to lock in. Now I'm going to take the manipulator and push this in like this. Okay, I'm going to take the manipulator and push this right towards the center. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view some. Okay, now I'm going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. Duplicate the geometry and pull that up some like this. I'm then going to press Shift D, left click to lock in, take the manipulator and push the geometry down some like this. Okay, I'm going to press Shift then B to draw a zoom box, as I call it. I'm then going to hover here, then press L. I'm then going to press Shift D to duplicate that geometry, left click to lock in. Pull this to the side and push this up like this. Now I'm going to press Shift D, left click to lock in, pull this out to the side like this. Now I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Held the middle mouse button to turn. I'm going to press A to deselect. With face select on, I'm going to hold Alt, select these ring of face loops right there, or faces there. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. I'm now going to hover here, then press L. Missed the first time. L, 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 L. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis. Just pull these back. Press S to scale on the Y axis some more. Pull them back some more like that. I'll press A to deselect. Now I'm going to go to Edge, select, hold Alt, select this edge right here. Then I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, then press S to scale in like this. Not too much. Okay, now I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to select here. I'm then going to hold Shift to select here, here, as well as here. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to pull this back some, like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure we're in face select. We're going to hold Alt, we're going to select right here. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and then we're going to press S to scale. Hold the mouse button and pull this back some. Now with that geometry selected, we're going to press Shift D, left click to lock in, pull that back some, press S to scale like this. Pull back a little bit more. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt, select right here. Press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and then press S to scale this down some like that. Then going to hold them the mouse button. I'm just trying to see that edge right in there. I'm going to press A to deselect, A to select everything, then A to make sure that nothing is selected. Okay, and with edge select on, I'm going to hold Alt, select right here, pull this back some. I know it's probably hard to see it in there, but I held Alt because I was able to see this edge here. When I selected, I grabbed the entire edge loop, and I just used the manipulator to pull that back and hold the middle mouse button just to take a look now. Pull it back a little bit further. And I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm now going to hold Alt, select here, press E to extrude, left click to lock in, press S to scale this geometry in. And the reason why I did that is because here you can see, like, if I didn't do that you can see this is like would be thin looking. So when I did that, it added thickness to this extra shape here. So I'm going to just hold the middle mouse button and take a look now. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hold the middle mouse button, turn towards the back. We're going to go to face select. We're going to press C for paint select. We're going to select right here. We're going to right click to get out of paint select. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We're going to press S to scale to about like that. We're going to left click to lock in. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm then going to press W, which brings up our specials menu. I'm then going to go to loop tools and select circle. I'm then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, drag that new geometry out some, about like that. Okay, now we're going to press A to deselect. We'll give ourselves some quick detail right here by holding Alt, then selecting right here. We'll then change our pivot point from Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point, to individual origins. We'll then press and hold Alt, then press E. This is a different type of extrusion that we're about to do. When we pressed Alt, then E, that brought up our extrude menu. We're now going to choose individual faces. We're going to left click to select and left click to lock in. Because we went and chose individual origins now, when we scale in those extruded faces, we get this right here, which is pretty cool. Okay, and with that geometry still selected, we'll press and hold Alt, then S. This is a special type of scaling that makes things get fatter, for lack of a better word, like thicker, rather than just scaling all around. So we're going to left click to lock that in. Okay, so we're going to press A to deselect right there. This looks thin right here, so we'll go to edge select here. We'll click here to turn our pivot point from individual origins back to Blender's default pivot point, which is medium point. We'll then hold Alt. We'll select that edge right there, which allowed us to select that entire edge loop. We're going to press E to extrude, then left click to lock in, and we'll press S to scale in just to give ourselves some thickness to that little piece of geometry. Then we're going to left click to lock in, then press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to hold our middle mouse button now. We're going to rotate towards the front here. I'm actually going to rotate down a little bit. We're on edge select, so we're going to select this edge right here. We're then going to press Control, then B, then pull to bevel that edge like this. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in. Okay, what we're going to do for this part is we're actually going to hover here. We're then going to press L to select this entire piece of geometry. We're then going to press Shift. Then while holding Shift, we're going to press H to hide everything but here. We're then going to press A to deselect. We're going to go to face select. We're going to select right here. We're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, then press S to scale in like this. We're then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. We're just going to then push this down like this. Now we're going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. When we press Shift D, we actually made a new piece of geometry that's not connected to this geometry, so we'll pull that up like this. And what I'm going to show you here is another way to get, fairly quick detail fairly easily. We're going to hover our mouse here, then we're going to press Control, then press R. There's one loop cut that came from that, so now what I'm going to do is roll my mouse wheel a bunch of times like that. Then I'm going to left click to lock in, left click again to totally lock in. Okay, now I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to hover my mouse here, then I'm going to press Shift B to draw a zoom box right here. Now what I want to do is hover my mouse here. I'm then going to press L. Now I want to select every other one of these faces, right? There's a cool thing in Blender I learned not too long ago, and what it is if you go to here and you go to select, then you go to this checker deselect. Watch what happens when I click this. You see that? What it did was it selected every other face for us. Now this isn't too many faces here, but imagine if we were doing something where we had hundreds of faces that we wanted to get fairly easy detail from. This could be extremely useful because it just saves a lot of time, and I'm extremely happy that I found about it. Hopefully you'll be happy that you know about it now too. Anyway, with those faces selected, we're going to press Shift D, left click to lock in. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back some. So now I'm going to take the manipulator and pull up some like this. Then I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, then pull out that extrusion like that. Now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover my mouse here, press L, then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then I'm going to choose faces to delete. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is press C for paint select. Just select, some of each of those pieces of geometry. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select, then I'm going to press and hold Control, then press L, so that selects all of the object that as long as you have a piece of the object selected. So with that done, I'm going to just take this and push this down into here like that. Hold the middle mouse button and take a look. I'll take the manipulator and pull this way slightly. I think I'll press S to scale it in just slightly. S to scale on the x-axis, something like that. Okay, then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back some. I'm then going to press and hold Alt, then press H while holding Alt to bring back the hidden geometry. We're then going to press A to deselect. I'm now going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, now what we're going to do is hover our mouse here, press L, then press Shift, then while holding Shift, press H to hide everything but our cockpit that you see here. Okay, I'm going to hover my mouse right here. I'm going to press Shift, then B to draw a zoom box, as I call it. I'm then going to select this geometry here, pull this forward, something like that. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. I'm going to press A to deselect. Then I'm going to press C for paint select. Select this geometry right here. Then right click to get out of paint select. Turn to the side. Pull this out some. Then I'm going to press S to scale on the x-axis 0. Then left click to lock in. Okay, now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to paint all of this geometry right here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to then press E to extrude, then left click to lock in. I created new geometry. Now I'm going to press S to scale this in some, like this. Now I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis to lengthen it some, like that. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, with this still selected, is I'm actually going to press the Y key. Then left click to lock in, and what that did was that separated this geometry from the geometry below it. So if I pull up, you can see that it's actually a separate object now. So now with that done, what I want to do is I want to press Shift D, left click to lock in, and pull this geometry up again. With that piece of geometry now separated, what I want to do is press and hold Control, then B for bevel. Pull about like that, then left click to lock in. Then I want to press Shift D, then left click to lock in, and pull this geometry up like that. Okay, with this geometry selected, I want to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. Then I want to press and hold Alt, pull down, extrude up some. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover my mouse here, press L, select this to select that. Then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Now what I'm going to do is hover my mouse here, press L, then hover my mouse here, then press L, then I'm going to press H to hide them both. Okay, now I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to look at the bottom of this. I'm going to press C. For paint select, I'm going to paint right here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Then I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to see this view, a side view. Then I'm going to take the manipulator and push down something like that. I'm then going to press A to deselect that bottom geometry that I previously had selected. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hold them in the mouse button. To get a top view, I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm then going to select this edge right here. I'm then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to push this down some. I'm now going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to pull this back some. Now I'm going to press E to extrude again, left click to lock in. Push this down some. Holding the middle mouse button to look. And what I want to do now is I'm actually going to grab this edge here, take the manipulator and pull this in some. This. And I'm going to hold Alt, select here, press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and push this down some. You can see that coming through that geometry there. We're going to pull this back some. And we're going to press S to scale this in so it's not popping through the bottom. Now what we're going to do is press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and we're going to push the geometry towards itself. Because of this clipping, you can see the geometry like basically looks like it kind of sealed itself, which is good. One thing to keep note of is when you use the geometry with a mirror modifier and you push geometry towards each other to create kind of like a seam like this, typically what happens is you have extra vertices, and those will cause issues. So you can deal with that just by pressing A to deselect that first, then we'll press A again to select everything, then we'll press W to bring up our specials menu, and then what we'll do is we will go to right here where it says remove doubles. Now click this and you can see right there it says remove 4 vertices. So now this area should be actually, binded together in a correct way, and we shouldn't have issues with it in the future. So I'm going to press A to deselect now. Okay, now I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to turn the view. I'm going to hold shift them in the mouse button to pan. I'm now going to press and hold Alt, then H, which brings back everything. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to select this, as well as this, as well as this. Okay, with this geometry, we're going to press and hold shift and press H to hide everything but this. We're going to press A to deselect, and we're going to hover here, press L, take this, push this down some, push this back some. We'll probably press S to scale on that X axis to make it fit a little bit better. Now what we're going to do is press A to deselect. We're going to hover here, then press L, bring this down some. Okay, so now we're going to press A to deselect there. We're going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. We're going to hold Alt, select the edge right here, and then push this in some, like that. Then going to press A to deselect. We're going to hold Alt, select this edge right here, push this in some, like that. We'll do the same for here. We'll hold Alt, select that edge, push this down some, in some as well. Let's hold the middle mouse button and take a look. I'm going to go to face select. I'm actually going to pull this up some, like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, now what we're going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to right click here to get the 3D cursor to come right there, because in Blender where the 3D cursor is at is where your objects tend to come into. So I'm going to press Shift A. I'm then going to select a cylinder. When you look immediately over to your left, you'll see this add cylinder, vertices right here. We're going to click here, change this to 8. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're still on face select, which is good. I'm going to select here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, now what I'm going to do is hover here. I'm going to press L, then I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis 9-0. Then left click to lock in. I'm going to push this up. Hold the middle mouse button to adjust the view. Bring this forward to about here. Push this in. Press S to scale to shrink this down some. Hold the middle mouse button just to look around. Move this to about here. Push this in some more here. Now what I'm going to do is go to this face right here. Okay, now I'm going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. I'm going to press S to scale in some. I'm going to pull this out some like this. I'm going to go to edge select, hold Alt, then select right here. Now I'm going to press and hold Control, then press B to bevel. Then left click to lock in. I'm going to go to these bevel options here, change the segments to 2, the profile to 1, then left click to lock in. Okay, I'm going to press Shift and B, then draw a zoom box. I'm then going to press A to deselect. When you do a bevel and you change the segments to 2 and the profile to 1, this is a nice way to make sharp lines or hard edges. Anyway, I'm going to hold Alt, select here, which when I select that edge, with edge select on it, I selected that entire loop. Now I'm going to press S to scale, just like that. Now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom out. Okay, now I'm going to zoom back. Now I'm going to hold Alt, then press H to bring back our hidden geometry. I'm then going to press A to deselect all of that geometry. Okay, what we're going to do now is draw a zoom box. We're going to press Shift B just to zoom in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. I'm going to press Z, then go to wireframe. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to just tilt this up some. I'm going to hold the control button, then hold the right mouse button. Draw a lasso select. Do this geometry here. Then I'm going to press Control L. Then I'm going to press Z, then go back to solid view. Looks like there's some I missed. I'm going to hover here. When I say some, I mean some geometry. Okay, what I want to do is just pull this out to the side some, about like that. Okay, what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, turn to the side. I'm going to hover right here, then press L. I'm then going to press Shift D, then left click to lock in. I just duplicated this barrel right here. I'm now going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm going to left click to lock in, move this back to where it was, then push it over to here. Hold the middle mouse button and push in with the mouse. Give me a smooth zoom in. Pushing this into position. I press S to scale it down some. Pull it back some. Okay, what we're going to do now is roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to select all of this stuff right here. I'm going to right click together paint select. I'm then going to press Control L. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. I'm then going to press S to scale on the Y axis some, like this. I'm then going to pull this back some. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look beneath there. Back a little bit more. So hold the middle mouse button and take a look. Now what I'm going to do is press C for paint select again. Select this geometry here. Right click the paint select. Press Control L. Then what I'm going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view slightly. I'm going to pull this straight up, something like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. I'm going to press R to rotate on the x-axis. Press R to rotate on the x-axis a little bit more. Just hold the middle mouse button, I take a look. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold the middle mouse button, turn to the side. I'm going to select this face right here. I'm then going to press Shift S, which brings up our Snap to menu. I'm then going to choose Cursor to selected. I'm then going to select Shift A and then choose to bring in a cylinder. Okay, you can see our cylinder right here. If you look right towards your left, you'll see options for your cylinder. Right here where it says cap fill is basically this right here. I don't want that, so I'm going to click here and then select nothing. I also don't want the vertices to be 32. We don't need that much geometry, so I'm going to click here. I'm then going to select 12 and then left click to lock in. And then now I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. I'm going to pull this cylinder out some. Okay, what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt. Select the edge right here. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm still holding Alt. I'm selecting this other edge right here. And what I'm going to do is press S to scale on the Z axis. Like that. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. I'm going to hold Control as well as hold the middle mouse button and pull in. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. And I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in some more. I'm now going to go to the pivot point and change it from Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point, to individual origins. I'm then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, then I'm going to press S to scale. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. The reason why I changed this to individual origins was if I had the edges there and I scaled in, Blender would have given me something very similar to this, but it kind of would have went down before. And I think it was the first mech tutorial that I made on this channel. I did a similar thing for a joint, but at the time I don't think I knew about individual origins, and that it's very small difference. But basically, when you scale, it kind of Blender with the medium point on kind of pulls the 2 points towards each other. With individual origins, this is just straight. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is press W, and then I'm going to W brings up our specials menu. I'm then going to go to loop tools, and because I have what you can see there is the top edge selected, I also have the bottom edge selected. I'm then going to go to bridge, and because I have those two edges selected, when I select bridge, basically what happened is Blender filled in this geometry right there, which is very nice. So I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hover here, I'm going to press L, and I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate this geometry. I'm going to left click to lock in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to pull up some, about like that. Okay, now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press Shift, then B to draw a zoom box. I am now going to go to Alt, select this edge right here. I'm going to press Shift D, left click to lock in. I'm going to pull that edge geometry up that I just made. I'm going to press S to scale it down some. I'm going to press F to scale. I'm then going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in, and I'm going to push it down. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button like this to rotate so I can see it coming through the other side. You can see a strange shading on there. I'm going to press L to select it. I'm then going to press Control N. The reason why I'm going to press Control N is because the reason why there's strange shading is because the normals are most likely messed up. So I'm going to press Control N to recalculate normals. Now you can see that the shading is now correct. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more like that. Okay, what I'm going to do is zoom back some. I'm then going to press C for paint select. I'm going to right click the other paint select. I'm then going to press Control L to select all of that geometry. I'm then going to go to our pivot point. I'm going to change our pivot point from individual origins back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point. I'm then going to press R to rotate On the y-axis, -90, then left click to lock in. I'm now going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, and then I'm just going to push this geometry over here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look. I'm going to press S to scale on the x-axis to make it wider. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Just pushed it in with the manipulator, and it's decent. So I'm going to press A to deselect now. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift and middle mouse button to pan. And we have our basic mech right here. Now this mech could look pretty cool just with the flat, squares. Because it's a mech, we could get away with that. But for the most part, it's better, I find, even when dealing with mechs, to have some parts of the mech be smooth, as well as having some parts of the mech be hard. So that's where you get into hard surface modeling, and I'm going to show you some of the techniques of how to do that now. Hard surface modeling is basically a fancy way of saying that typically when you work with organic shapes, you put something called a subdivision surface modifier on an object, and that smooths everything out, right? So when you are dealing with a mechanical object and you put a subdivision surface on something to smooth it out, you come up with the issue that because it's not organic and you want some pieces hard and some pieces, soft, that process that we're going to go about getting those hard edges while having a subdivision surface on something, or whatever the equivalent is, and if you're dealing with Maya or 3ds Max, that's pretty much what hard surface modeling is as far as I know anyways, is dealing with getting those hard edges and surfaces while having some kind of smoothing modifier on your mesh. Most of the time that's going to be a mechanical mesh. However, you will have characters that have hard surface things like weapons, armor, stuff like that. Anyway, so just like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to press A, and what I said was talking about the subdivision surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a shortcut. This right here is your modifier button. You remember before we put the mirror modifier on, you can click here, then you can go to subdivision surface to do what we're about to do, or you can just press Control, and then while holding Control, press 2. And then what that did was that took, and that being Blender took the subdivision surface modifier on and applied it, and then it put a view of 2 and a render of 2. And this view right here, basically the higher you go up, the more geometry look gets added to your mesh. So 2 is a decent level where you have things fairly smooth, but not too much. So anyway, with this on, if you see how we have like this stuff here, like it looks like there's a cage here and then the mesh is inside, we can click right here, and that will make, by clicking this button, it makes it look like that modifier is applied. Then what we can do is press Z and then select Shade Smooth. Okay, and with the subdivision surface modifier on, you can see what it did to our mechanical mesh. I like how this turned out, but most of the other pieces, that had a nice hard metal look to them now look, soft. However, that's fairly easy to deal with. What we're going to do is we're going to press A to deselect. We're going to go to face select. We're going to press C for paint select, and we're just going to paint and select the different pieces that we basically want to be hard instead of soft. So we have that geometry there, so I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm then going to press and hold Control, then press L to select the geometry that we just had a piece of. I'm going to hover here, then press L. I'm going to hover here, press L, hover here, press L, hover here, press L, hover here, press L. And again, these are the different pieces that I want to be hard. I'm going to hover here and press L as well. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hover here and press L. I'm going to hover here, press L, hover here, press L. I like how this looks, like I said before. However, holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view, we need these to be hard, so I'm going to press C, roll the mouse wheel to shrink the paint select, and grab pieces of that, grab pieces of all these right here. Then I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm then going to press Control L to select them. Okay, what I'm going to do now is select right here to go to right view. I'm then going to press Z to go to wireframe view. I'm then going to hold Control, and then while holding Control, hold the right mouse button and draw a lasso select right here. Then I'm going to press Z, then go back to solid view. Okay, I'm going to press Shift B to draw a zoom box here. I'm then going to press C for paint select and select this geometry here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back, hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to paint right there, right here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select, hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, press C for paint select, right click to get out of paint select, hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, now I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, and what we were trying to do is grab the different things that we want to be hard. I am then going to press the N key. This brings up our properties panel menu, not sure which is correct. Properties panel, I guess. Anyway, you see this right here where it says actually, this is it right here, mean crease. This right here, when we push this up, anything that we have selected will basically harden. If we push this up, we can harden this. However, there's a shortcut that I like to use, and what that is if you press Shift E, right? Watch that mean crease as I pull this line. I'm going to left click to lock in. I'm going to press Shift E again and pull. You see how this says mean crease 1? So with that mean crease of 1, all of these different pieces that we had selected now basically look hard. Okay, so that's a nice way of getting hardness back into our model after we applied the subdivision surface, right? However, there is an issue, and what that issue is, when I click here and I go to object mode, you see our pieces, yes, they're harder, but they have issues with them, and the reason why they have that is because of the smooth shading we had. However, what we can do now is click here, and then we can choose to put this modifier on, which is the edge split modifier on. When I put this on, you'll notice that everything for the most part appears hard again. You see that now? And with the edge split just works beautifully as far as working with your mean creases as far as doing hard surface modeling. If by some chance these pink mean crease lines is what they are, get on your nerves, you can scroll down here to where's it at? Here you go, to mesh display, and then you can just unclick where it says creases. So if that really bothers you, you can just be aware you can turn that off. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect, and basically what we've done so far is we've used L to select objects, or we use Control L to select objects, which works well. However, often when you're doing hard surface modeling, you're going to want to pinpoint pieces of geometry to put a mean crease on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press Shift B and draw a zoom box right here, and I want this to be hard right here. So what I'm going to do is go to Edge Select. Then I'm going to hold Alt, select here. I'm now going to hold Shift so that when I select this next edge that I'm going for, which is here, so that I'm holding Shift so I don't lose this selection here. So now I'm holding Alt as well as Shift. Then I'm selecting this, so now I have that edge loop as well. I'm going to zoom back some. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift E and use a shortcut for a mean crease. Then left click to lock in, and I like how that looks a lot better. I'm going to press A to deselect. So right there, we pinpointed hard surface modeling. However, when I click here, then go to object mode, see this? I don't want this to look that hard. So what I'm going to do is click here, then go back to edit mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is press Shift B, then draw a zoom box right here. We can't press L here because we'll select this entire piece. So we're going to go to Face Select. We're going to hold Alt, select these loop of faces here, hold Shift, select this face here. We're going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Now we're going to press Shift E. Then we're going to decrease the mean crease by pushing in. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, now we're going to click here, go to object mode, and it's smoother. I still want it smoother, so I'm going to click here, go back to edit mode. Then I'm going to press Shift E, then push in more to make it even smoother. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Now I'll click here, go back to object mode, and now we can see it's much smoother, and I like how it looks there. Okay, I'm going to click here, go to edit mode. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, then press L. I'm actually going to press S to scale this down some. Left click to lock in and push this in a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, so we're done with our modeling as well as our hard surface modeling. So I'm going to uncheck where we see it says creases right here, it being Blender. Then when I roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Okay, what we're about to do is to go into cycles to put some materials and textures on this mech. We are going to use Blender's automatic UV unwrapping feature to unwrap this mech mesh. I find that the automatic UV unwrap tends to work well with mechanical objects. If you don't know what UV unwrapping is, it's basically when you take a 3D object and lay it out flat so that whatever program you're using can more easily put on colors and textures. So to do that, what we're going to do is hover our mouse right here. I'm going to left click and drag to the side. I'm then going to go to this corner right here. I'm going to click here. See where it says UV/image editor. I'm going to select that. When you go to your mesh, I'm going to press T to take away this menu. Then I'm going to press N to take away this menu. What you want to do is with your mouse hovered over this window, you want to press A to select your entire mech. You want to make sure that you're in edit mode. Then you want to press U. When you press U, your UV mapping menu pops up. You want to select where it says Smart UV Project. So you click there. Default settings are fine. We'll select OK. And then here is our mech automatically unwrapped for us. Typically, when a program does something automatically, it's not going to be as good as when a person does it. That's the case here. But like I said, for mechanical things, I find that it works very well, actually. However, if you want exact placement of things, yes, I recommend you unwrapping it or learning how to unwrap it. But for your basic textures and what we're about to do here, this should work fine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click New. We'll name this UV, then we'll select OK. Okay, and basically what Blender did was it just brought an image in to work with our UV unwrap right here. I tend to like to unwrap things inside of Blender Internal. When I say Blender Internal, you hear somebody else say it's because this right here, the Blender Render, people call it Blender Internal. What we're going to do now is click here. We're then going to go to Cycles Render, or I would call it the Cycles Renderer. So now we're in Cycles. So I'm going to hover my mouse here, left click and drag. See that? Yeah, I can't really see it, but there's an arrow. As soon as I let go, the screen that has the mech mesh is going to overtake the UV. Okay, we came to Cycles because Cycles generally makes things look beautiful. I have the video processor, so I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to change for the Cycles Render to work with my video processor. If you don't have the video processor, there's some other video processors that do work with Cycles in Blender 2.76. I'm not sure what they are. Anyway, here in Cycles, what we want to do is I'm going to hover my mouse here, left click and drag to split the screen down some. I'm going to click here. Then I'm going to change this view from the 3D view to the node editor. Okay, here in the node editor, you can do things in Blender like put colors onto objects. You can also use the compositor to take videos and use green screens and do all kinds of special effects. The reason why I'm telling you that is because we want this right here, which is the material node editor. We don't want this right here, which is the compositor. So with making sure that this is your current selection, you then want to put a check mark next to use nodes. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in so you can see the nodes here. Okay, and basically by using these nodes, that's how we're going to put our colors onto here. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to hover my mouse here, press Shift Space to temporarily make this the main screen in view. I'm going to hold Shift and the mouse button to pan down. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to Object mode. I'm going to right click here to put the 3D cursor there. I'm going to press Shift A. I'm then going to go to Mesh, Plane. I'm then going to press S to scale. I left clicked after pushing S. I'm going to press S and then drag again to scale. Again and again. And what I'm doing there is I'm going to roll this back. I am setting up lighting and preparing to set up lighting. I'm now going to press Shift A, which brings up our Add To menu. I'm then going to go to Plane. Push this plane down here. Then I'm going to press S to scale, S to scale, S to scale, S to scale. The reason why I brought this plane in is because light is going to come down from here. And when that light comes down, a light is basically going to bounce around. Typically, you want the light to bounce off of the ground up onto your mesh. So that's why that ground plane is there and the top plane is there for the reason that light is going to emit from there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press Shift Spacebar to go back. I'm going to zoom back. I'm going to select this plane right here. This circle right here is our materials button. I'm going to click here. I'm then going to select New. This right here basically is our basic color for our plane. When I clicked on this plane, the node editor changes to reflect the current object that you're dealing with, right? So this panel here as well as this node editor here are pretty much the same thing. So when I click this diffuse here and I have these different options here, I'm going to choose emission. When I choose emission, that diffuse that's a little bit over there towards the left will change to emission. You can see it changed to emission right there. Okay, so basically now we have light in our scene. I'm going to hover my mouse here, pull this out a little bit. So we can now render or do render previews to basically see what our mech is going to look like with, pretty much beautiful lighting on. So I'm going to click here. Basically what happens is as you either render something or pre-render something here in cycles, depending on what your settings are here, sets up for how clear your image is. So basically right now we have the sample set for render 10, preview 10. Preview is basically inside here, and here being like inside of Blender. Render is when you actually go to render out an image or a series of images to make a video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is press Shift B, then draw a zoom box right here. So basically when I press Shift then Z, this shows you what our mech looks like with a sample of 10, right? So it's not very clear. So that 10 right here is actually the because we're in the preview mode of Blender, this is what this 10 here basically reflects this 10 right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click here. I'm going to change this 10 to 100. So when I click here, see that number going up there? You can see this, rapidly racing up, and basically our image gets much clearer. So the higher the number you have here, the clearer your image will be here. However, the higher the number, the more time Blender will take to reach that number. Okay, I find that to set the colors here, the easiest way for me to do it is to have a preview render window right here, as well as having basically a work window right here. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in here so we can see our mech. Then I'm going to roll the mouse wheel here so we can work more easily. Okay, what we want to do is click on our mech mesh. What we're clicked on will reflect the materials that are shown in our node editor here. So since we are clicked on the mech here, we're going to go to our materials button here. Okay, in our materials button here, we see we have one material, so this will be our main material. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to add, then we're going to add in materials for this main color. However, we'll also use this to copy these nodes to other materials that we want to work with. We'll put that there, that there. We'll click add. We will bring in a mix shader. Okay, we'll also go to add, we'll go to texture, and we'll bring in an image texture. Now for this image texture, what I'm going to bring in is just a standard grunge picture. Yeah, you can just grab a grunge image offline, and what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to not have the skin of our mech look smooth, basically. So what we're going to do is take the diffuse, we're going to run the diffuse. Instead of going into the material output, we're going to run this into the bottom of this mix shader. We're going to go from the glossy BSDF into the top of the mix shader. Then we're going to run the mix shader into the surface of the material output. Then we are going to go from the image texture, which is our grunge texture, into displacement here. And then with all that done, now we're going to pick the actual color we want. So I'm going to go for a green, a dark green color for our main color for our mech. And we should see that when we zoom in, that the skin is not smooth. The grunge is doing what it should be doing and giving us a non-smooth look to the skin for our mech. Okay, so now what we're going to do, since we have this basic setup here, is we're going to hover our mouse here. We're going to press B for box select. We're going to draw a box around all these nodes. Now we're going to press and hold Control, then press C while holding Control to copy these nodes. So now we're going to, with our mesh selected, we're going to click here, then go to edit mode. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. We're going to go here to this plus right here to make a new material. We're going to select new. Now we're going to hover our mouse here. We're then going to press Control V. This just brought in the nodes that we copied from the first material that we set up. We're going to click here, select X, click here, then select X as well to delete those nodes. And those were the nodes that were here from when we made this new material here. Okay, what we're going to do now is select different pieces of this mech that we want to change the color. I want to make certain pieces of this mech black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold Shift, then press B. Then I'm going to draw a zoom box to zoom in. I'm going to hover here. I'm then going to press L. I'm then going to press Shift, then B. Then draw a zoom box to zoom in here. I'm then going to hover here, then press L, 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 as well as L. Okay, I'm going to press and hold Shift, then I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, and I'm going to pull to the side. I'm going to hover here, then I'm going to press L, as well as L, I'm going to hover here, then press L. Hover here, press L. Here, and press L as well. I'm going to zoom back some. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side. I'm going to hover here. I'm also going to press L. Hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side. Hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side a little bit more. I'm going to hover here, press L. I'm going to zoom the mouse to zoom back. I'm going to press Shift B, then draw a zoom box right here. Then I'm going to press L. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button, pan. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate. I'm going to press Shift B, then draw a zoom box. I'm going to hover here, then press L, 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 as well as L. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold Shift as well as Alt, and then I'm going to select here. And now with all of that geometry selected, I'm going to click here. I'm then going to click here, make this a little bit darker. I'm then going to select Assign. Okay, when you look here, you might say, you can't see that much of a change as far as the color in the places we selected. However, when you look here, there's a glossy shader as well as a diffuse shader running into this mix shader. All right. This factor controls how much of this color actually goes towards changing the color of the mech. So what we're going to do is take this factor up some, and now you can see there's a much bigger color change right there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. We're then going to hover here, then press L. We're then going to go to here, click the plus, select a new material. We'll pull this diffuse down. We'll click add, go to shader. We're then going to choose in emission shader, bring that up there. I'm going to take this, I think they call them noodles. Somebody was calling it a noodle. I'm not sure that's the official name or whatever, but we'll take this wire, I'll say, and pull this out. We'll pull this over here. We'll click add. Go to shader, we'll bring in a mix shader. We're going to click here, make this basically a yellow color. We're going to run this diffuse into the bottom shader, run this emission into the top shader, and then run this into the surface shader. Then we're going to select Assign. Okay, for these cannons, I don't think I actually want the displacement there. So what I'm going to do is click here, click this grunge image texture node, and then click X to take the displacement off of the cannons there. Okay, I'm just going to hover my mouse here, then press Shift, then space bar to take a look. Okay, not bad. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel, reshare them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And to those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.